In order to be with my stepbrother, I lost the inheritance right of a wealthy family. He lost his hearing on one side after being beaten. We were both deserted by our relatives and friends. We swore that at least we should love each other until the next life to be worthy of this tragic price. However, in the 7th year, we became a resentful couple who had no communication except hatred. Every day I hysterically asked him for confirmation, "Do you still love me? Do you still love me? Do you still love me?" And he always chose to answer with silence on the side where he couldn't hear. On a sunny afternoon, I followed him to a corner coffee shop. When I saw him showing a faint smile to a handsome boy, his brows relaxed. Suddenly, I was relieved. I took nothing but memories. No matter how many times I ask that question, my answer is always, "I still love you." So, let you go. 01 from receiving the location sent by the private detective to arriving there. I only spent 12 minutes. I ran a red light. Originally, I didn't need to be so nervous. After a casual search, at a glance, I saw the hot review on a certain review website, a good place for couples to date. It's not a place for serious business discussions. So I stepped on the gas pedal to the bottom. As soon as I parked across from the coffee shop, the next second, my eyes caught sight of the two of them. One was in a suit and the other was in a milky white hoodie. My boyfriend Ian, and the shameless bastard who seduces my boyfriend. The two of them didn't even hide it at all and sat in the street-side seat so openly. The small cakes that are usually said to be unhealthy, 2 portions were ordered and placed in front of the man in the hoodie. Anger burned my optic nerve so painfully that I gritted my teeth. With one hand, I pulled the car door, and with the other, I grabbed the Americano in the cup holder. A full cup, with a lot of ice. If I splashed it over, that scheming, pretending to be young hoodie would be instantly ruined. The car door couldn't be opened. Because I saw Ian smile. My movements froze like this. I was like a dilapidated robot and clearly heard the sluggish sound of my joints. Through the car window film, the sunlight was undiminished. Ian had a faint, very shallow smile. His expression was relaxed and his brows were stretched. As beautiful as a warm-toned oil painting, the years were peaceful and the sunlight was gentle. I don't know what the boy said to him, but his smile deepened and he even leaned forward as if to hear more clearly. I slowly widened my eyes. As a voyeur who can't be seen in the light, I could only hide in the dark compartment and spy on Ian's pleasure. My boyfriend was very amused by someone else. How long has it been since I saw him like this? Looking so happy and relaxed. In a trance, I felt like I was back at 7 years old. My father was holding the hand of a strange aunt, and the aunt was holding Ian. He was wearing a black and white striped knitted sweater. At first glance, he was a gentle and meek child. Father said, "Call him brother." At that time, I was eating a very big candy in my mouth and mumbled, "Goo goo." He smiled just like today, a faint smile. He corrected me with a smile, "It's brother." The cold water droplets dripped down along the cup wall and landed on my thigh, soaking a large patch of fabric. The hand holding the coffee cup was so cold that I had no feeling left. I looked down in a daze. Strange. There were only a few drops of water. How come that I feel like I'm drowning? 02 Ian didn't come back until midnight. As soon as he turned on the light and saw me sitting on the sofa with my knees hugged, his figure paused slightly, and then he changed his shoes on his own. He took off his watch and casually placed it on the storage tray. He didn't even bother to say a word like "Why didn't you turn on the light?" He walked to the dining table, poured a glass of water, and drank it slowly. His Adam's apple was very sexy as it slid. "Ian." I took the initiative to break the silence. He didn't answer. He just gave me a look. "How long has it been since we did it?" The Adam's apple stopped. He put down the water glass. His slender index finger hooked the necktie and impatiently loosened it. "I'm very tired." An unsurprising answer. Every time during this period, he has rejected me like this. I nodded. "Okay, change the question. I'm really tired." "What? How long has it been since you smiled at me?" Ian suddenly stopped speaking and turned his head to look at me. I smiled. "Why, Are you so tired that you can't even curve the corners of your mouth? Do I have to become a college student and wear a hoodie to make you smile? He was stunned for a moment. Soon, his face darkened. How many times do I have to tell you? Stop following me. Okay, I won't do it anymore. Humph, Ian sneered. I won't believe a single word of your promise anymore. Saying that, he picked up the coat he had just taken off and turned to walk towards the door. I'll stay at Hooting tonight. In the past 2 years, Ian's company has grown bigger and bigger. We have already got rid of the initial embarrassment and poverty. We have bought one villa and apartment after another. The days when we could only sleep under a bridge after being driven out of home will never come back. At first, I complained that there were only 2 of us. How could we live in so many places? He said that each set has a different experience and we can live in different ones in turn. However, from the beginning to the end, I only lived in this first set. It was a bit small. It was filled with things belonging to us and was very warm. The others have become convenient places for him to escape from me. Watching him resolutely put on one piece after another that he had just taken off, I knew that he was determined to leave tonight. But at the moment when he held the doorknob, I opened my mouth. Brother. He would stop. I know that this is my last weapon. Sure enough, Ian stopped. Without turning around, he waited in silence for me to continue. Do it. I heard him chuckle softly and then opened the door again. Please, brother. I added another sentence and swallowed the latter half. After all, this is the last time. This time, he responded to me. He turned around, strode closer, pressed the back of my neck, and forced me to lie on the sofa. The crisp sound of the belt buckle being undone rang out behind me. At this moment, my thoughts were scattered. Would he be so rough with that boy? He would listen carefully to his needs. My brain was masochistically replaying the scene of the afternoon. Every frame was filled with Ian's cherishing and tenderness. Suddenly being torn apart by pain brought me back to reality. There was no caress, no foreplay. I kicked my legs in pain, but he sneered. Isn't this what you want, Mia? Are you satisfied now? A strange pleasure emerged amid the pain. I buried my face in the sofa cushion, gasping while stammering and asking him, Ian, do you still love me? What answered me was his continuous rough actions. I clenched my teeth, and the knuckles of my hand clutching the sofa cushion turned white. Do you still remember that we promised to love each other until the next life? Ian still didn't speak. Brother. My voice finally couldn't help but tremble. Do you regret being with me? Ian silently completed his task and left without a trace of reluctance. I know you heard me. Answer me. After tidying himself up, he uttered 2 indifferent words. Boring. Hearing the door close, the tears that had been suppressed the whole time finally fell. If Ian had glanced into the room, he would have found the large suitcase I had packed. But now, I didn't want to take any luggage with me. I took away the 18 years of knowing, loving, and mutually resenting Ian. Some people say that as long as you throw away all yesterdays, your steps will become lighter. Ian will definitely be relieved. I bless him. 03 Wandering aimlessly alone. During this time, Ian's message box was silent, without a single word. On a whim, I joined a tour group and went to Iceland. The planned 18-year-old adult trip was originally intended to get a marriage certificate with Ian by the way. After our relationship was discovered by the family, we didn't make it. Later, we were too poor to go. Then later, when we had money, we didn't have time to go. I thought traveling could empty my mind, but I didn't expect to think about Ian all the way. Thinking about why we have come to this point. Perhaps because after falling into the quagmire, the once most precious dignity has become the cheapest thing. From never looking at prices when buying things to being overly meticulous about everything. Or maybe during festivals, others are reunited and lively, while we can only face the coldness of a room. These minor details erode the feelings that I thought would never waver. I began to be anxious and worried, afraid that Ian would regret it. I was the one who seduced him, the one who bent him, and the one who caused him to be in this situation today. I am also the one who hysterically confirms to him every day that he loves me. If I don't get an immediate reply to a message, I will bomb him with calls. At first, Ian would patiently coax me, saying that Big Brother will always love you. Slowly, he began to be silent. Ian's right ear is deaf, damaged by a punch from his enraged father. When he doesn't want to respond, he will turn his right side to people and pretend not to hear. I understood his perfunctoriness. The more panicked I became, the more I pressed him. As a result, the tension between us grew. So much so that he needed to relax elsewhere and take a breather. There was a recent college graduate in the tour group. He said that his roommate stood him up, so he could only come on a graduation trip alone. Seeing that I was also alone, he unilaterally declared that we were companions and followed me, chattering nonstop in my ear. I really want to find his battery and take it out. I thought helplessly as I was being nagged to death. So are you lovelorn? One day he suddenly asked me this. Towards the end of the journey, my temper had been worn down by him. Yes. Why did you break up? I thought for a while and came to a conclusion. I pushed him too hard. He was suffocated. Why did you push her? Because I love him very much. The college student thought for a moment. It sounds like your unrequited love. This doesn't count as being lovelorn. I stopped in my tracks. For the first time in these days, there was a major emotional fluctuation. In the air mixed with ice pellets, my chest heaved violently and my face flushed red. He was frightened by me and hurriedly tried to make up for it. Oh, you loved each other, you loved each other. It's just that later there's no love anymore. There's no way. People's hearts can change. Look ahead, Ian must have loved me, otherwise, everything we have experienced over these years will become a joke. After returning home and inserting the SIM card, there was still no new message from Ian. I swiped the screen expressionlessly and saw a text message from an unfamiliar number. Your father is critically ill. If you still have a conscience, come and take a look. I haven't seen my father for 7 years, his condition is so bad that I hardly recognize him, his face is ashen, like freshly mixed cement. Seeing me, his dry and cracked lips quivered slightly and his pupils trembled. Dad. I walked over and took his hand. My cousin followed closely behind, never leaving my side. Letting me see him for the last time is probably not his intention. He is definitely not so kind-hearted. I stroked his broad and rough hand. It was these hands that pulled me up from Ian's bed and beat him until he was deaf. At that time Ian's mother had already passed away. He raised this stepson out of kindness, unexpectedly. The result of his kindness was witnessing his 2 sons entangled in bed. He wanted to drive Ian away. I wouldn't let him, so I was driven away together. Under the instigation of my uncle in a rage, he immediately notarized his will and all the family property was inherited by my cousin. How majestic he was, how come in just a few years he has become like this? I wanted to ask him if he regretted it. As soon as I opened my mouth, my throat choked up. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The 7 years like a dream poured down like the white fluorescent light above my head, drenching me pale. I heard myself say, I regret it. Before I could see my father's reaction clearly, my cousin hurriedly grabbed my shoulder. That's enough. Don't disturb Uncle's rest. I was dragged out of the ward. As soon as the door closed, my cousin's expression immediately cooled down. He was sarcastic. What's settled, it's useless for you to regret it now. I didn't try to amend the will, but he wouldn't let it go. Hilarious. Weren't you very tough back then? How many years has it been? Broke up. You've already found a new love. I've heard that people like you, being together for a month is considered a golden anniversary. I looked at the new love he mentioned, the college student downstairs guarding 2 large suitcases. Although he had said his name several times, I still couldn't remember it. Originally, he was going to transfer in my city. As soon as he heard that there was something wrong with my family, he immediately followed. When I walked up to him, he was concentrating on choosing a hotel. Stay at my house. I started to call a car. If you don't stay soon, there will be no chance at all after some time. There are many boxes piled up in the old house. It seems that some people can't wait to move in. The college student sighed. Wow, you are a rich young master. After a pause, he added innocently, then why couldn't you even afford a lobster bisque in Iceland and only 8 noodles? I was too lazy to explain. He didn't understand that people who have experienced famine have a morbid obsession with high-calorie quality carbohydrates. I have the same obsession with Ian, my heart is empty. The college student was quickly attracted by other things. He stood by the window and pointed at the small garden downstairs and exclaimed, "It's so beautiful, why is no one taking care of it?" I looked over, the clusters of endless summers were crooked, the climbing frames of roses were scattered all over the place, and the double-petaled anemones had withered. When I first met Ian, it was in front of a large patch of anemones. I stumbled and grew up following him, developing a different kind of affection. I gradually pulled him, the flower on the high mountain, into the net woven by pain and joy. The address changed from brother to husband to Ian, and finally back to brother. After a passionate and intense love, just like this garden, it was in a mess. Do you mind if I trim it tomorrow? Frankly speaking, my childhood dream was to be a gardener. I don't mind, but you may be doing something in vain. I yawned, pulled open the quilt and lay down. This place will soon have a new owner. The new owner doesn't like the flashy European style, most likely, it will be demolished and rebuilt. The college student didn't care at all. In fact, he was already full of enthusiasm. It's okay, just having a taste is fine. Unfortunately, he didn't get his fill. That night, my father passed away. He left in a hurry. Perhaps if I hadn't said that sentence, he could have lived a few more days. I am really a scourge. The college student followed me to attend the funeral. He secretly asked me, why do I feel that everyone is staring at us? I lowered my head and adjusted the flower on my chest. Because I am an unfilial son who didn't get a penny, they are afraid that I will go crazy. Why didn't you get a penny? I began to seriously recall his name, but my mind was full of why. His curiosity was too strong. I planned to shut him up directly, because I am gay and had an affair with my brother. When we were caught, my brother and I were still connected. It was in that room where you slept last night. Great, the world immediately became quiet. I looked at my cousin's family who were full of grief but with joy on their brows. My chaotic heart also gradually calmed down and became a still lake without wind or waves. But the college student wouldn't let it go and kept throwing stones into it. He came closer. Is it that one? I shook my head, how could he possibly like him? Oh, I didn't mean that one. Suddenly, my heart missed a beat. Slowly, stiffly, I raised my head little by little and met a pair of eyes not far away. I should have thought of it. He would come. Ian is standing under a cypress tree holding a black umbrella. His posture is straight, and there is an aloof and indifferent sense that keeps people at a distance emanating from him. Some nosy people have already begun to look at him without hesitation and gossip. Ian ignores them and looks directly at me. After half a month I still can't control myself. My hands tremble involuntarily and even my body starts to shiver. Are you okay? I can't give an answer. Watching Ian walk over here, I hurriedly ask for help. Can we hold hands? Hold hands? The college student tilted his head. After a moment he suddenly realizes. Oh, you want to make him jealous. The cold hand is held in a broad and warm palm. And the next second Ian stops in front of me. His eyes are dark and he doesn't look at anyone else, not even taking the college student seriously. Those noises rush over like mosquitoes and flies. The college student may feel embarrassed and struggles gently. I hold on tight and look directly at Ian. Brother, I saw Dad for the last time. Ian nods slightly. Did you talk? We said a few words. That's good. There is always no expression on his face, as if discussing an unimportant matter. I want to remind him that he also called my father Dad for 10 years. The words come to my lips, but I swallow them back. Ian should hate me as family. He hates us one by one because we have made his life difficult. But I still can't help asking, aren't you curious about what I said? He replies, as long as you have said everything you should say, there is no regret. How could there be no regret? My life has been firmly bound by regrets and I can't break free. The biggest regret is probably at this moment. No one stops us from loving each other anymore and our feelings are no longer restricted by life, but one person doesn't love anymore and the other has to let go. Ian takes a distant look and then withdraws his gaze. Go home when you've had enough fun. I am stunned. His tone makes me recall my junior high school days. After school, I secretly followed my classmates to the arcade. When I was playing intensely, Ian found me. He didn't scold or urge me. He just did his homework by my side. When I showed a little lack of interest, he would start packing his bag and stretch out his hand to me, saying in a calm voice, "Go home when you've had enough fun." Then we held hands and walked home, stepping on the shadows under the streetlights. The driver followed slowly behind. When we got home, there was hot soup prepared by the aunt and snacks brought back from abroad by my father. The road was long, but we could see the front. But now I lower my head, with a bitter smile. I have no home anymore. After the college student finishes drying his hair, he asks me if I want to go to his city and play for a while. Anyway, graduate school hasn't started yet. I'm idle anyway. I can be your tour guide. You are quite nice. I stare at the smoke detector on the hotel ceiling and try to have a natural conversation. I don't understand why your roommate stood you up. He immediately becomes aggrieved. I didn't know until graduation that all three of them are gay and don't want to play with me at all. As a result, you I met when I came out to play are also like this. What kind of constitution do I have? I don't understand you guys. Is it that men's mouths are softer when kissing? One by one. The college student mumbles and gets under the quilt. The bedside table between the two beds is very narrow. The airflow brought by him lifting the quilt brushes past my cheek and my hair moves slightly. After turning off the light, the field of vision falls into darkness. During the day, the college student can distract me a little, making the pain that torments me less intense. After it gets quiet, the nerves start to be pulled and tortured repeatedly. There is a noisy commotion in my heart, many mouths, many voices. That feeling of being drowned little by little climbs from my chest to my throat and drowns my mouth and nose. I suddenly sit up. What's wrong with you? The bedside lamp is turned on. Looking at the college student's sleepy look, my heart slowly returns to its place. Nightmare? I shake my head. Then don't turn off the light. Can you sleep? I shake my head again. Do you want to talk? I can order a cup of coffee now and accompany you. Do you want to try it? The interrupted boy opens his eyes wide in confusion. Try what? A man's mouth. The moment I say it, I feel like I'm crazy, but I'm not the only one who is crazy. The college student is stunned for a long time and scratches his face. It's not impossible. Before I regret it, I quickly get out of bed and get into his quilt. Just kiss directly? Yes. He purses his lips and raises his hand to touch my cheek. The pads of his fingers tremble slightly and gently rub my lips. His whole body tenses up. The college student's gaze becomes confused. Really, very soft. All humans are the same. Haven't you kissed before? His face turns red. He stiffens his neck and stutters. So what if I haven't kissed before? Saying that, he holds the back of my neck. As if in a fit of pique, he clasped the back of my neck. He adjusts the angle left and right and slowly approaches. Twice, when there is only a little distance left, almost touching, he fails. No. Start over. This time his expression is extremely serious. I'm really going to kiss you. When the distance is less than a finger's width, he pauses. I thought he would retreat like the previous two times, but he doesn't. When our breaths are intertwined to the extreme, I suddenly feel a tightening in my heart and quickly turn my head away. His lips brush past my cheek and finally land awkwardly on my hair. Sorry. Even though Ian hasn't kissed me for a long time. The last time was last Christmas, and it was only when he had a little alcohol that he kissed me. Take advantage of. But kissing someone else is really not okay. The college student awkwardly backed away. Maybe I should order a coffee. Saying that, he really started looking through food delivery apps. But at this time, there are very few coffee shops still open. I looked at the young face under the warm yellow light and was a little dazed. Are you so warm-hearted to everyone? Not really. He didn't look up and was still trying to find an open store. It feels like if I don't take care of you, you will leave this beautiful world at any time. Is it so obvious? The college student's fingers paused, and when he looked up, his face was a bit more serious. Do you remember the aunt in the blue windbreaker in the tour group? And the uncle in yellow pants? Everyone has noticed. On the first day you arrived, you lost your wallet. On the third day, you lost your phone, but you weren't in a hurry at all. Others were taking crazy pictures at the check-in points. You just watched quietly as if you didn't plan to keep any memories at all. Look, a few of us have also formed a group. They were still asking about you yesterday. My eyes were sore. There is a hot thing in my chest that is trying to break through the bones and skin and gush out. I know that even if I leave Ian's life, he will not really be let off. We can never get around those wrong things. We will be entangled and trapped by wrong decisions for a lifetime. Among two people, only if one dies can the remaining one be free. Only when one dies will love and hate truly disappear. So after many years, when he thinks of me again, I will only be the cute younger brother who seduced him into making mistakes when he was young, not the crazy and hideous old lover every day. I grabbed the college student's arm and directly met his slightly surprised gaze. What's your name? Ryan. Ryan. This time, I remembered. Ryan, we won't kiss anymore. Let's just do it. Huh? I have to find an outlet for the rampaging emotions in my body. Ignoring Ryan, whose features were distorted in shock, I took off my pajamas directly. Bought temporarily in the mall before the trip, it is a bit prickly and not very skin-friendly. Damn, are you serious? Do I look like I'm joking? I lay on my stomach with my back to him and covered my head with a pillow. You can think of me as a girl. He was greatly surprised. Can it be the same? I don't know either. Anyway. I paused and my tone was a bit innocently mocking. Whether it's a man or a woman, you haven't tried it, have you? The provocation worked. Ryan gritted his teeth for a while, and finally began to take off his clothes rustlingly. No more words. I waited and waited. I took away the pillow and turned my head to see that he was desperately swiping his phone. What are you doing? Cramming at the last minute to learn? It's too absurd. For this kind of thing, isn't it by instinct? The first time with Ian seemed to have no difficulties at all. It happened naturally. After waiting for a long time, when I was about to say forget it, he said he had learned. So I lay back down again. Immediately, a strong and solid body pressed down. His heartbeat and body temperature were also transmitted. I couldn't help but hold the sheet tightly. My tone was as casual as possible. I didn't know who I was comforting. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. It's okay to be a bit rough. I won't feel pain. Ryan responded in a mess and took away my pillow. Not this. Suddenly, there was a feeling of helplessness, like a sniper's cover being ineffective and being exposed in broad daylight. Before I could protest, a warm and soft touch landed on the back of my neck. I'm starting, okay? I was suddenly speechless. He kissed down, clumsy but full of solemnity. So solemn that my heart panicked. Originally, I thought I could use him heartlessly to get through this torturous night. But now I find that I can't. Ryan is too pure and sincere. He is not the kind of person who leaves after the fact. Maybe he will be responsible for me from now on. I can't harm others anymore. Just as I was about to call a stop, Ryan stopped first. What's this here? He gently pressed on my shoulder blade where there was a small protrusion. A bite. Last Christmas Ian and I had a fight. The reason was that we met an intern from his company in a restaurant. The intern and his friend didn't make a reservation in advance and waited in line for more than 3 hours on the spot. Facing his eager request to share a table, Ian didn't refuse. If it were just this, I wouldn't be so petty as to quarrel with him on the street. In the intern's eyes looking at Ian, there was clearly full of admiration, without any concealment. Even after I showed my identity, he didn't restrain himself at all. Ian said, he just likes me. He hasn't taken any action and hasn't affected our life. Why should I fire him? Can't you remind him that you have a boyfriend and let him give up? Or are you reluctant? Quarreling on the street filled with festive atmosphere is a very embarrassing thing. I desperately suppressed my anger and grievance, but still completely collapsed after hearing his casual "I can't interfere with his emotions." We had a fierce fight that time. I left him halfway and went to a bar to drink until very late. Finally, Ian found me and took me back. He gave me hangover soup, gave me a bath, and then half reluctantly rolled onto the bed. Intense pain stabbed sharply at the shoulder blade. At that time, I didn't pay much attention to it. After all, Ian always liked to bite me. As for the bulge, it's probably hypertrophic scarring. Ryan didn't agree. He carefully felt it again. It doesn't seem quite like. There seems to be something inside. As soon as the words fell, in the next second, the door was kicked open forcefully, making a loud noise as it hit the wall. Ian had a dark face and slowly walked into the room. "It's time to go home." His tone was icy. For the second time in my life, I was caught in bed with someone. The first time by my own father. The second time by my own boyfriend. I was only wrapped in a blanket. I left home without bringing anything, and I still didn't bring anything when I returned home. The large suitcase was placed in the living room. Ian lifted his chin at me. "Put everything back." I slowly walked over and opened it. Everything inside was still in the same state as I had arranged it. I took out a set of clothes and put them on. Then I turned to look at Ian sitting on the sofa. "Ian, I've said what I should say. Before going to Iceland, I sent him a message. I wish you a smooth road ahead." Originally, there were more than just these 6 words. I typed a lot, but in the end, I felt it was unnecessary, so only this ending blessing was retained. Ian never replied. I tacitly assumed that he knew what I meant and agreed. But now it seems that he seems to have gone back on his word. But he should understand that there will never be a day when we can make up. We can't go back completely. Ian didn't speak, and my cell phone rang. It was Ryan. The boy's voice was full of tension and concern, confirming my safety. "I'm fine. But..." I took a deep breath and clenched my cell phone. "This time I probably can't go to your hometown with you." There was a long drawn-out note of regret from the other end. "Not ever again? Not even as an ordinary friend?" I pursed my lips and suppressed the inexplicable soreness in my heart. Well, then when you can't sleep and feel uncomfortable next time, you can still find me. I'll buy a coffee machine first." "Coffee machine? You can't order coffee delivery at all at night." A very strange train of thought. Very Ryan. Just as I was about to reply, my cell phone was suddenly snatched away. The call ended. Ian raised his hand, and the cell phone went directly into the fish tank. Looking at the series of fine bubbles rising from the bottom of the tank, I was very calm. From his series of actions and attitudes tonight, I could feel Ian's displeasure, anger and, "He still loves me." But Ian suddenly grabbed my chin and turned his right ear towards me. "Say it to it." I closed my mouth. But for a moment, I fantasized about being in a relationship with someone else. Like with Ryan. Healthy, normal. Chatting a ton of meaningless nonsense every day, not having to guess the intention, and frankly expressing care and concern. But I know that I don't deserve it anymore. When Ian pressed down on me and roughly tore off the clothes I had just put on, I could only close my eyes. Hug him back. Ian's perspective Mia doesn't know that his seduction technique is really clumsy. Rubbing his leg under the dining table, seemingly inadvertent physical contact, wearing only a wide shirt after taking a bath to ask about math problems and then lingering. Very clumsy, but I enjoy it very much. I enjoy the way this little boy tries his best to please himself. Although I have to pretend very hard every time, my body is more honest than my heart, swelling and aching. One thunderstorm night, he lied about being afraid of thunder and got into my bed. I touched his body. It was naked and he wasn't wearing anything. I thought, I can't pretend anymore. To this extent, it should have reached his limit. So while showing distress on my face, I pressed him down and kissed him. "Brother." His voice trembled. Very cute. For this be doomed to happen night, I have rehearsed many times in advance. To ensure that he will become addicted and completely inseparable from me. As expected, in the huge villa, every corner is a cradle of our intertwined love. Mia's eyes, intolerable and filled with moisture, are like a wet puppy. So cute that I can't wait to eat him up in one bite. We became more and more unrestrained at home. Being caught wasn't unexpected. I was very calm inside. It was bound to happen sooner or later. The only reason I stayed at Mia's house was originally just Mia. Wherever he is, it's my home. In the first 2 years, we had a hard time but were very satisfied. Holding him in a narrow single bed was like holding the whole world. Later, life got on the right track, but something subtly changed. His world was no longer just about me. He would talk to me about the handsome male celebrities he recently discovered, the new clerk in the coffee shop who looked like a male model, and the young tutor who became very suave and immoral after changing into a set of clothes. Noticing that I was in a bad mood, Mia would smile and act coquettishly, "Brother, are you jealous?" I didn't say a word and just vented my uneasiness and panic by pressing him down hard. But it was useless. I watched helplessly as his attention was gradually diverted to others. Those damn others. I was helpless. At a company gathering one day, everyone had too much to drink. A completely drunk female colleague accidentally smeared her lipstick on my shoulder. When Mia saw it, she was angry all night. I pretended to be tired and coaxed her, but my desolate heart gradually revived. In his raging emotions, I felt his jealousy, his concern. He loves me very much. Like sweet dew. Later, I repeated the same trick many times and always got the expected effect. Until last Christmas, perhaps I went too far. Mia didn't come back until late at night. I searched bar after bar. When I found him, he was as soft as a puddle, surrounded by 2 men ready to take him away at any time. Calmly taking him home, when he was in a state of confusion, I put the already prepared locator into his back. Behind the heart. The small thing with monitoring function can transmit the sound of his heartbeat in real time. When living alone in another apartment, just listening to his heartbeat, pleasure can reach its peak. I had a face-to-face interview with a psychologist in a cafe. I stared at the little red dot on my phone. Without looking up, I knew he was just opposite. Once I tasted the taste of extracting love from his pain, I became addicted and couldn't stop. His furious appearance, his appearance with tears in his eyes when angry, his trembling lips. Let me have a strong feeling of being loved. After listening to my speech, the psychologist looked worried. "Aren't you afraid that your lover will leave you if this continues?" I slowly took a sip of coffee, deliberately spread a smile, and leaned close to him and whispered, "He can't leave me. Mr. Ian, frankly speaking, your situation is already very serious. Please accept standardized treatment as soon as possible." "I don't need treatment. I just need Mia's love." Mia left a note and flew abroad, leaving my controllable range. So I bribed a middle-aged couple from the same travel agency to report the situation to me every day. Inevitably, I learned that there was a boy who had been pestering him. I didn't take him seriously at all. After all, Mia looked completely uninterested in him the whole time. Later, Mia said that she regretted it. She also took him to our old house and lived in our former room. I couldn't sit still. So even if no one invited me, I went to the cemetery. Watching Mia panic and let the boy hold his hand and put on a show for me, my heart calmed down again. There, I made a concession. I hoped he would come home with me. Unfortunately, he didn't. The situation began to get out of control at night. He called that boy's name. He remembered it. He was moved. Perhaps even he himself didn't notice that when he was talking to that boy, there was a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. A doting and indulgent smile, with a very relaxed expression. Even when I stood in front of him, he didn't hide his closeness to that person at all. Mia, in front of me, was thinking about another man. Thinking with lust and longing. This realization made every part of my body ache. It seemed as if my body had been pierced through. Our 18 years rushed past through the hole. I raised my hand, but couldn't catch anything. But, it doesn't matter. Mia won't leave. Even if we are destined to become a pair of resentful lovers who can only continue by constantly consuming memories. So what? I still love you, so? I will never let you go even if I die.